4 sentences here. Let's quickly look at it. When a brand has earned the respect of consumers and are followed, 48% are positive to receiving messages from that brand. Okay. Now let's quickly see if there's any repeat words or phrases. Let's do that. That's the first step, right? We have a contrast here. Contrast word. Keep that in mind. And a question ends with a question. So social shows, social media, budget, dollars, anything related to money, right? Invested money. And then we also have A has a completely another word, which is brand. So let's look at it and see what could be the sequence, right? So A we understand, and then it says, but the question that needs to be asked is all this money. So what is that? Where is that money being spoken about? In B, billions of dollars are expected to be invested across the globe in 2013 as the explosion in social shows little signs of slowing, right? So is all this money being spent wisely is the question, right? So B has to follow D here, and obviously the context is revolving around why are they investing so much in this? Social media is everywhere, and marketers are planning to take full advantage by pledging more budget than ever to the plethora of new communication channels available. Plethora means plentiful, abundance. Right? So CDB, so the context that is not in line with this is A, right? Which is referring to something slightly different, right? It's not completely unrelated, but it is not related to the theme that is being covered in B, C and D, right? It's all referring to social media, B, C, D, but A is talking about a slightly different thing and has no relation to this particular theme. So our answer is A. So here we've identified the theme, right? Next, they are the finest in their respective fields. Who's the they? Now you might have heard of the next chap. Who's this chap? It is always a strange, life-threatening form of sport. What is that it refers to? Doyle is part of an elite force of over 600 brand agents. Okay, so there doesn't seem to be much of a glaring repeat words or phrases here. So we'll just have to understand what is this it and they referring to, right? D seems like the only thing that can start off or give us some sort of a base, right? Doyle is part of an elite force of over 600 brand agents. And this they obviously has to refer to Doyle. They are the finest in their respective fields. Their areas of expertise range from over these 600 brand agents, Doyle is the finest. Their areas of expertise range from climbing cliffs that stretch to the heavens without safety nets, of course, to wingsuit jumps off those very same cliffs. So obviously here they're talking about an adventure that can be very scary to a lot of people, right? Climbing cliffs that stretches to heavens. Scary thing. So C kind of talks about that particular sport, right? It is always a strange, life-threatening form of sport. Only those not in their right mind would try it. So those who are extremely adventurous and, want to reach the skies in whatever they want to accomplish will engage in a life-threatening sport like this, right? So this makes sense. D, A, C, but B says now you might have heard of the next chap. Chap here is fellow boy, right? Some guy. So now B kind of stands out without having any connection to the rest of the sentences, right? So B does not make sense. So the answer for us here is B. Here again, we've just looked at the sequence, in which it flows. Our clue words being prepositions. Our clue words being the prepositions it and they. That's helped us identify the sequence. And so here it's mostly, we've been able to spot the sequence and then scrap out the odd one out. This must change. What is that this? This would encourage long-term investments in channelized saving in the productive financial assets of equities. Again, what is this? In the case of equity, so I can see some repeat words, right? Equities, equity. Okay. Now, remember, even though we are able to identify repeat words and phrases, we just can't blindly go by that and say, okay, B, C, D is a sequence, let's eliminate A. That's not how it works. Remember, we need to go ahead and see if it is giving us the same theme, right? Is it following the same theme or is it giving us the same meaning? Let's quickly look at it. So let's see if C and D are relating to B or A, right? One says this must change, which means there's something negative that has to change. B says this would encourage. So we'll have to see whether C and D are giving us a positive meaning or a negative meaning, right? Remember, we're looking at identifying what the common theme is. So C says, so in the case of equities, retail investors have to rely on the kindness of brokers or advisors to scan a profitable investing opportunity. So that's not a very productive thing, right? It's pretty sad that they have to rely on the kindness of brokers or advisors to scan a profitable investing opportunity. So what about D? Indians save a lot but invest mostly in gold and real estate and very little in equity. So which means around the context, what we see here is more to do with, we understand that the main idea or theme is around equities, right? So D and C is talking about how people are not focusing on this, how Indians are investing on gold rather than equity. And the second one says that they have to rely on the kindness of brokers. So these two are not very positive, are not putting equity in a positive light, right? Which means this must change is more applicable to C and D rather than saying B, right? There's nothing encouraging from C and D for equity, for long-term investment and channelized saving in the productive financial assets of equity. So obviously the odd one out is B, right? So D, C, A, or whatever the sequence is, right? This must change. Or C, D, A. It could be anyways, but the one that is not in line with the common theme, which is giving us a negative meaning, right? And this one is talking about something positive, but none of the other sentences support this B. So B is out of context.